This is the A to Z podcast. Expert insights on leadership, business, real estate, investing, and growth.
Welcome to the podcast, everyone. Today, we're here to talk about the confidence advantage. Whether you are a professional, leader, entrepreneur, or investor, you and I, we all need confidence, whether to speak in front of a camera or an audience, whether you are leading a team or organization, whether you are selling your products or services, or pitching to raise capital. You need confidence. To discuss all of this and more, I invited the expert who's going to help us dive deep and understand what it means to have confidence in various situations and give us some insights, framework, and approach that are going to take our confidence to the next level. My guest today is Jeff Shimer. He is the Vice President of Dale Carnegie Tampa. Jeff, thank you very much for coming, and I appreciate you for being here to share your wealth of knowledge, experience, and stories with my audience.
Thanks, AZ. Really great to be here. Looking forward to it.
I want to start our conversation by asking you, when did you hear about the works of Dale Carnegie? I want to share mine, but I want to know how it all started with you, and also what kind of impacts that knowledge of the work of Dale Carnegie have had in your life, career, and leadership?
So when I was a young man, I was very involved in scouting, in particular exploring, which is a career-based co-ed division of scouting. It was quite big back when I was that age. And I actually had run for office and become national president of that organization. So I'm 18 years old and I'm in an elevator in Clearwater going to a travel agent for my next trip for this role I had. And I'm wearing a jacket with a big patch on it. The guy in the elevator starts looking at it and talking to me about it. And he goes, "Tell me what that's all about." I'm just so excited, loving what I'm doing and just having the time of my life. I'm telling him all about it. The elevator hits the bottom floor and I'm still talking. We step out. He keeps asking, and finally at the end of the conversation he says, "Hey, that's really cool. How would you like to take the Dale Carnegie course?" And I said, "Sure. I'm not sure what it is, but I've heard the name. Sounds good to me. Sign me up." So he gave me a scholarship to attend the Dale Carnegie course. And the very first night I showed up, I still didn't really know what it was all about, but up to I'm sitting in the back, and up to the front bounced this little bitty guy with a really sharp suit, and he's got so much energy, and he's introducing his partner to teach the class, and the partner was the guy I met in the elevator. And this guy's energy was so great, so inspiring. I knew immediately I wanted to do that. Now, the gentleman who introduced the guy I met was 88 years old at the time. I'm 18. Right, so he's 70 years older than me, and he had more energy, more enthusiasm, more zest for life than anybody had ever seen. And I immediately knew I want to be doing that when I'm an old man. Now, I'm on my way, but I'm not there yet. So
thank you for sharing that. That's why I always want to be mindful whenever I meet people. When I talk to someone, I don't know, that conversation may completely transform my life, my profession, my career. And I'm glad that you were paying attention to that. Sometimes when you are young, you may not pay attention. You may be preoccupied with immediate things and things that young people do. In my case, I still remember how it happened. I was born and raised in one of the poorest villages in Ethiopia. You can imagine, I didn't have access to books, especially books on personal development. And I remember one Saturday, I still remember it was a very sunny Saturday. I was playing with my peers. We're teenagers and we're just playing. And this teacher, a very respected teacher in our village, he stood halfway outside, halfway inside his house, and he gestured towards me and asked me to come. And I didn't know whether I was in trouble because in our village back then, other parents are also your parents. I didn't know whether I was in trouble. I didn't know that that gesture was inviting me to a new destiny. I
Wow.
didn't know that was a gateway to go to the next level and completely transform my life.
Hmm.
He called me and he had two books on his hands and he didn't say anything. I didn't know why he chose me among my peers. I didn't know what he wanted me to do with the books. Just gave me the books and told me, read these books. I didn't know what to do with the books. I didn't know what to do, but I was grateful for him choosing me and giving me that. The rest is just history because I
Wow.
completely transformed my life. I started to read the books. One of the books was Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. When
Hmm.
I read that, I could be able to see the power of confidence and public speaking. And I started to go out speaking and so on. After that, I completely changed. I became a youth leader and then a university student leader. Everything changed. And I'm glad and I'm grateful for that opportunity and for that teacher helping me to connect with something that was important for my age to be exposed
Yeah.
to that kind of material.
That's amazing. I hear that a lot where people say, my father told me to read this book in high school. I got this from my grandfather, or I stumbled onto it when I was young and it changed my life. That book has impacted millions of people. Great to hear that it had such a positive impact and that you were lucky enough to have a mentor, somebody looking
Yeah.
out for you to encourage you like that. That's really important.
Yeah, that's why now I write a lot of blogs, I write books, I produce this kind of products. Part of the reason is kind of paying back. I don't know who gonna listen this and get transformed. I don't know who gonna read my blog or my book. I want to make myself available because somebody was generous enough to expose me to something. And you're right. Whenever I talk to some people, sometimes they tell me, "Oh, you must have read Dale Carnegie's books." Actually, I think it was a month ago, I was talking to one of my friends, and we get along very well. And in our conversations, I mentioned the story I just shared with him, how that transformed me. And he said, all right, now I know why you and I like each other, why we get along. The same thing happened to me. I read that book and I became totally different the way I communicate with people. It's a
Amazing.
powerful resource. Let's talk about, I want to lay a foundation because when people look at you, for example, a very confident person, accomplished person, a high caliber person, and some people may think that you don't have any challenge to develop confidence. They may think that you don't sometimes question yourself or doubt yourself or feel insecure. I have my own. I want to hear yours. In my case, there are many reasons that could challenge my confidence. And one of the reasons for me is whenever I make a shift from one career to another career,
Mm.
I had confidence. I was confident. But the moment I make a move, I'm starting from scratch, doubting myself, feeling insecure. I remember when I was a researcher, the people around me, they were accomplished. They published on peer-reviewed journals. I didn't even know how research was done, let alone to publish. When I was a software engineer, the people around me, they knew how to code. They built website, apps, software. I didn't know even to code basic things. The same thing when I became a leadership expert, coach, consultant. Yeah, I knew how to speak, but I didn't know how to facilitate. I didn't know how to coach. I didn't know how to consult. And recently, also, I made a move to commercial real estate and business brokerage. My senior partners, my mentors, they have decades of experience. They closed multi-million dollar deals. Now I'm here into a new field, never closed, never had any experience. And you can imagine the uncertainty, the doubt, the fear, the insecurities that I face. But here is one thing that was different compared to what happened years ago. That
Mhm.
one difference is I keep on moving. I may be doubtful today, I may be uncertain today. I may lose confidence today, but I would say, you know what? I won't quit. I will see what happens tomorrow. At one point down the road, my fear, my doubt, my insecurity is gone. Now I have confidence because I kept on going. I kept on practicing. I kept on going out while fearing, doubtful, insecure. I want to know your case. If in the past, did you feel insecurity? Did you question yourself? And most importantly, what do you do to pull out yourself from that kind of situations?
Well, I think you hit it. One of the keys is that you keep moving despite self-doubt. I one instance that I talk about a lot in some of our courses is when I joined Dale Carnegie full time. See, I become an adjunct. I was an adjunct or part-time trainer, like about half our trainers are, early in my career. And I did that for about 20 years. And then I joined Dale Carnegie full time in 2006. And at the 2007 International Convention of Dale Carnegie being held in Acapulco, Mexico, I was asked to give a 5-minute motivational talk to the general session following the keynote of the CEO. And I remember being backstage with Rick Gallegos, my friend and CEO of Dale Carnegie Tampa Bay, who was going to introduce me. And I was so nervous. AZ, my mouth was cotton, my hands were sweaty, I was jittery. And I remember, looking at Rick and saying, wow, I haven't felt like this about making a presentation since I was like 16 years old. I mean, I was on TV every day at the Home Shopping Network for 10 years. I'd, been on camera doing videos for a decade. I had all this experience at presenting, but this was a special situation that really challenged my confidence. And, I went through all the same things: breathing, positive self-talk, visualizing success, and rehearsing in my mind how I was going to begin, how I knew I wanted to close it. And so when, I went out there on stage, I was still feeling all of that, but I executed what I had planned and done. My only regret in that was that when it ended, I was still so hyped up and nervous that I immediately shot off stage and I missed the standing ovation that I had gotten from the 1,000 people in the audience. So, part of it is, and we'll talk about this more in detail, is that you don't have to feel confident to act confidently. And it's that confidence is a feeling, an emotion, if you will, but you don't have to have it to act that way. You don't have to have it to move forward. So when you act confidently, then the confidence follows. If I get that chance to speak like that again, right, and I've had some similar things, I'll be way more confident. So just like you, once you do those things, then the confidence grows.
Correct. I'm glad you brought that up, because at the end of the day, you lead your emotions. You don't allow the emotions to lead you. Yeah, you may feel fearful, you may not have confidence, but if you keep on taking, I think it is James William, the founder of modern psychology from Harvard University, who said that action leads emotions. What he's saying is what you said, which is, even if you are fearful, even if your emotions are not empowering, supporting you, if you keep on acting on your fears and keep on going, what happens? Your emotion change. That's why I advise my coaches, my trainees, nobody, even experienced speakers, if you put them in front of an audience they have never been before, or if they're speaking on a topic they haven't prepared, they may have this butterfly down there, feeling nervous, a little bit scared. But the difference is they know how to channel nervousness. They feel it, they acknowledge it. Like you say, they may breathe, they may do certain things to channel it quickly. The difference between the pros, the masters, and the beginners is, the beginners, it may take them long. And like you mentioned, for example, you managed to speak, but in the end, you didn't stop, absorbed the accolades, the uploads. and you rushed because it took you a little bit longer to manage that kind of fear. But the more you experience, the more you could be able to handle that kind of situations. Let's
For sure.
talk about true confidence. You and I here, we're not talking about superficial confidence to compensate something. I remembered someone. I was in a networking event and I was on the outside. There are people inside. I was outside networking with some people, and there was one guy inside. He was so loud that we hear like what's going on with him. As a person who has trained eyes and ears, I knew something was going on. This person appears confident, he yells, he's loud, unusually. I waited until the end, then I tried to talk to him, but somehow he left. And I talked to someone. I just asked, do you know this person? She said, I don't know him, but he just shared with me his stories. I asked, what's his story? She told me that to compensate his fears, mingling with people, networking with people, he's speaking louder and so on and so forth, which is not true confidence, which means having ego, being defensive, speaking loud, and so on. They're not really true confidence. I want you to define for us what's true confidence, and most importantly, what are the mindset, the skill set, the behaviors, the habits that we need to have true confidence.
So it's such a big topic, AZ, and I think there's been a lot of studies and authors about the subject. And what self-confidence is and what it's not is kind of important to talk about. And you're exactly one of the key things that I wanted to make the point of is that self-confidence, you don't want it to spill over into arrogance, or as you said, ego, because that's not true confidence. Somebody who's not willing to admit their mistakes or take constructive feedback positively, that's not confidence. That spills over. There's been some things lately, and really it's gone on for quite some time, targeting the concept of self-esteem, which is similar but a little bit different. And one of the things they've said as a criticism about the concept of self-esteem is that it's comparative to everybody around you, and that it's not okay to be average. It's like you ask a room full of people, how many of you are above average drivers? And 3/4 to 100% of them raise their hand. Well, mathematically, that's just not possible, right? Nobody wants to say, oh yeah, I'm an average driver, or I'm an average leader, or I'm an average father, right? That's not okay. And we think that's what we have to be better than anybody else or than the people around us or our peer group in order to have self-esteem. And really that self-confidence is, there's a lot of other selves that we have to address that are associated with it. One of those is self-awareness. So critical that we're self-aware of the feelings we have, so that nervousness we may feel, that fear we may have, but also that mindfulness about what are we saying to ourselves about it? Are we really beating ourselves up? Are we really questioning ourselves, or are we overestimating our worth and our experience and our capabilities? Because that is just as dangerous as questioning or undermining ourselves, because then that can lead into arrogance or making mistakes or doing things we're not prepared to do that can lead to lots of trouble or losing our reputation and those kind of things. So it has to do with that self-awareness, that mindfulness, and to be truly confident that, look, let me give you an example, okay? Saturday, 2 days from now, I'm going to compete in the Top Gun triathlon at Fort DeSoto Park. And I'm not ready. Even though it'll be my 7th sprint triathlon, I know it is going to be miserable. The run in particular is going to be horrible. I'll do fine on the swim and I'll do okay on the bike. But when I start running in that heat Saturday morning, I am going to die. It's going to be really hard. But I'm confident that I'll finish. Even if I end up walking a good bit of that 5K, it won't be my best time. And I won't be, super proud, but I'll be proud that I finished. And it's that look, I know where I'm at. I'm realistic about my fitness and my training preparation. And so I'll get through it. And I've got to kind of set multiple goals. And the key one is just to finish.
Yeah, this is really a great insight everybody should have. Self-confidence, true self-confidence is about you. It's not about comparing yourself with someone or overestimating. I like the keyword, being realistic, which means my self-confidence may not be like somebody else. Given my situation, where I am and who I am, I may have a confidence level which is true to me, where I am and who I am, but I don't need to compare myself with someone, or I need to calibrate and know where I am. That generates true self-confidence. Let's talk about the evolution of confidence. This is about how do we match where we are in life with our confidence, which means I cannot say, for example, oh, I'm arrived. Hey, I have enough self-confidence. I don't need to work on it, because every new growth, every new success brings new challenge, new doubts, new fears. And therefore, I need to go ahead of the curve to develop my confidence to the next level, to make sure that my confidence is ready when I make my next move. Would you give us the evolution? How do we grow? How do we keep on updating and increasing our self-confidence?
Well, one of the keys, AZ, is that growth mindset. Of course, the groundbreaking book, Mindset by Carol Dweck, exceptional researcher and author, who really laid this out a number of years ago, is that the fixed mindset says, oh, I'm the smart one, or I'm the athletic one, or I'm the good looking one, or the charismatic one, or I'm a good salesperson, right? And it's like a fixed thing. That's how my makeup, my DNA determines it, and it can't be adjusted. But the growth mindset says, no, all of that, my looks, my intelligence, everything can be improved upon and changed with concerted effort and feedback and that kind of thing. So the most important part is to realize that confidence is an emotion, it's a state, it's not a permanent thing. I can't say, oh, I'm a self-confident person. No, I'm self-confident a lot of the time, but it is not a particular trait. It's one that comes and goes. It's just like being afraid or any other feeling we may have that goes with it. But having that growth mindset is so critical to say, all right, where do I need to grow? Where are my strengths? And acknowledge those and build on those, but also understand your limitations or your opportunities for improvement and to work on those. A couple of the other selves that help with this is self-control and self-discipline. So I look those as self-control as being able to stop myself from doing the things I know I shouldn't do. And self-discipline is being able to make myself do the things I don't really want to do, but I know I should do them. Brian Tracy, another great author and speaker who I've seen a couple of times and read some of his books, said a great saying once. He goes, if we did everything we knew we should do, when we knew we should do it, life would be fantastic. If we already know what we should do and we already know when we should do it, it's just making ourselves do it or not do it at the right time is what gets us the results that we're looking for.
Awesome. You emphasize the importance of self-control and self-discipline. I want to expand a little bit on that one. Sure. When we talk about self-control, this is about being self-aware, knowing what may cause us, for example, to doubt ourselves or to be aware of what's happening within us. If I don't control myself and what's happening, it may come out and erode my confidence. And I want to know how you yourself control yourself. What are some of the tactics that you use to make sure that you control this little voice inside? And also what kind of things you advise your clients and your coaches. The same thing, the discipline part, very hard. Both of them are very hard. The discipline part is the one you want to keep on growing. The discipline one is developing confidence a habit. And if it doesn't become a habit, if you don't have the resilience, the discipline, what happens? You cannot keep on growing and improving it. And I want to know how you self-discipline yourself or help others to develop self-discipline.
So a lot of it has to do with another concept that, another one of the selves, which is self-compassion. And, the idea that treat yourself like you would treat a good friend, right? Be kind, understand that you're a human like everybody else, and that we all have faults and make mistakes, and we all have self-doubts, and we all have times of supreme confidence and accomplishment. And it's that open-mindedness and mindfulness of, hey, what am I feeling? What do I need to be doing? What are my, challenges, and how do I overcome those? I think that's another key thing, that when we give ourselves self-compassion, we don't beat ourselves up so bad. The challenge is, because it's a dichotomy between perfectionism and carelessness or being lazy. And while perfectionism is we can't accomplish that, we'll always be disappointed. There is no such thing as being perfect. We'll never accomplish that. And we're just setting ourselves up for failure if that's our habit and our default mode is to be perfect. But on the other hand, if we just say, yeah, it doesn't matter, and we're careless, truly don't care about anything, then we're going to disappoint ourselves and everybody around us. And so it's finding that a lot of this is balance, is finding that Goldilocks spot, right? It's not too much, it's not too little, it's just right is where we need to be. And that goes for that self-compassion as well, which is another key thing that really helps us to achieve self-confidence.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. One thing I do to self-control myself is making sure that I'm not lazy, like you said. Whenever, for example, inside of me, if I feel fearful or if I am stressed out, I don't want to let that thing to go. I want to stop wherever I am. And I want to figure out the source for that fear, doubt, or stress. The moment I locate that, it could be maybe a conversation I had with someone a little bit earlier, or it could be the news that I have seen. Something happened, I made a mistake or something, and that was causing this fear or stress, doubt. The moment I recognize that, the moment I control that and immediately change my thinking, I could recover and start to be confident. When it comes to discipline, one of the things I do right now, for example, I coach people and train people to speak in front of the camera, in front of the audience. I'm at some level, but I don't want to be lazy in terms of discipline. There are two areas I am giving priority and working on a daily, at least on a weekly basis, to make sure that I have discipline to keep on working some of the skill set that I need to increase my confidence. One of them is how to tell stories, and another one is how to pitch high-stake proposals. Even if I have some kind of confidence in speaking in front of a camera, I want to discipline myself in trying to do certain things to go to the next level. And I completely agree with you. We have to make sure that we have this self-empathy to give space for us, not to really beat ourselves down, but at the same time also making sure that we're doing certain things to make sure that we're not lazy, we're not leaving certain things that may come back to bite us.
Mm-hmm.
Any comment on this one, or anything you want to expand? Yeah.
It's that we need to be driven and constantly looking to grow and get better. And I'm a big sports fan. I love playing sports, watching sports, and any of the great athletes fall into that category. Like Tom Brady, for example, of course, and we were so lucky to have him here for the years he was in Tampa Bay. And he brought that mindset of, look, constantly trying to get better and wanting feedback and having lots of people on his team to tell him where he can get better, but having that supreme confidence that, hey, I'm the GOAT, the greatest of all time. I know what I'm doing, right? And to have the focus of helping others, not just himself. And I think those are some great lessons. And some of those really come from Dale Carnegie's teachings and How to Win Friends and Influence People that you talked about. One of the key concepts in there is try honestly to see things from other people's point of view. And when we think about them, it gets us out of our own head and the self-doubt and the questioning, and gets us now very proactive in how can I help? And I think that's one of the key questions is we can ask ourselves is, hey, what can I do to help myself get better? Like we were coaching a good friend. If they came to us and said, oh, I'm taking on this challenge, I'm learning this new thing, or gosh, I'm transitioning to this new job and it scares me. What do I do? Oh, I'm not sure I can do it. We would do it with kindness, and we would say, hey, you've got this. How can I help you? Rather than, oh, you need to do this, right? And we'd want to really watch, to give them that. So we need to do the same to ourselves when we're challenging ourselves, and look for feedback that's going to help us continue to get better.
Yeah, one thing you mentioned I want to emphasize is, as much as you have to have empathy for yourself, you have to have empathy to others. And I have seen people, I have done it. For example, when you do something that scares you to help someone else, your fear goes away because it's not about you. You're trying to help, let's say, someone who is maybe even less confident than you. By doing that, you are actually building yourself. One thing came to my mind earlier. You were explaining about discipline, and I want to bring your attention and see how you may help us contextualize this to ordinary people. When you study successful people, these athletes, musicians, artists, politicians, when you see them successful, one thing we learn is that, and you mentioned it, the discipline they have before the camera, before the accolades, because they do certain things by having discipline when no one is watching. When I read the biographies of these successful people who have confidence, you learn that they pass through a lot of pain. I read the stories of Muhammad Ali, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Tom Brady, and many, many other people. They tell you that, for example, I can give example, Muhammad Ali. He said that I start to count my sit-ups and push-ups when it start to hurt. That's what matters for him. If it doesn't start to hurt, which means he hasn't done anything meaningful that could build his resilience and his muscle. You can see behind the scene, they pass through a lot of pain,
Sure.
discipline, and when we look at them successful, everybody want to be successful. Yeah. I know you mentioned it actually. Nobody want to be mediocre. Nobody want to be average, insignificant. Right. Everybody wants. The difference is those people who succeeded, those people who are significant because they have the discipline to work hard, and all of these things add up. And when the result shows, it looks like effortless, but they've done something in the background. Yeah. Is that something you have seen from other people? Or what do you think is the reason why these people, because I'm trying to figure out, in my case, the answer is simple, but I want to know yours. In my case, if you have self-worth, if you have bigger meaning about your life, you don't allow to quit. You don't give up, because while passing through the pain, through the challenge, through the discipline, you're doing it for a higher cause, for a higher being, to experience fulfillment. It's not about ego or fame or money or wealth.
Right.
How do you understand that? What's that discipline? What is the source of that discipline and resilience?
So let's go back to some older science. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Most of us have studied it in school. And the highest level of Maslow's hierarchy was another self-actualization. And what Maslow wrote about self-actualization was living to our best ability, to living to our destiny, or feel like we're living our best life. And you'll hear people joke about that or say things like that, but it's really true. Now, part of the challenge is that when we start reading biographies of people like Tom Brady and Muhammad Ali and the best at what they do, we got to be careful not necessarily to compare ourselves and say, oh, that means I've got to be the best ever at what I do. We've got to be able to find that, again, balancing point between driven to get better and realizing we can still be very fulfilled and be self-actualized and have a pretty basic life, right? We can have, things that we enjoy, people, strong relationships that are important to us, a certain amount of financial success to make life, really have some zip to it and some fun. There's that fine line between saying, oh my gosh, I'm disappointed because I'm not the best that ever was. You've got to be able to have some of that drive, but be able to find that way to do it. It's one of the reasons I think Dale Carnegie's book, and you know this, right? How to Win Friends and Influence People, because he mixes in so many stories through all the 30 principles that he covers in there. And some are about extraordinary people, great leaders, great athletes, people that are famous and wealthy. And then others are about very ordinary people facing very ordinary challenges and getting through those, but using some of the same methods and techniques to do better in those situations and to achieve goals. And that's really a lot of what it comes to is finding enough satisfaction with your life and with the things you have going on, but then enough dissatisfaction to drive you to continue to get better.
Yeah, I like it. This is very important to know who you are and what your goal, your values are, and to live for these values, whatever your values are. The moment we start to compare, actually, one of the things that challenged me in terms of confidence is when I try to be somebody else,
Right.
when I try to be like this person. And I've seen that, especially when I make a shift in my profession. I see someone very successful doing that, and I want to be like that person out of good intentions, but this is going to stress you out. And it brings, rather than confidence, it brings dissatisfaction because you're not being true to who you are and what matters the most for you. And what matters the most for you and who you are is totally different with a lot of people out there, you have to know. And actually, if I think about it, the moment you recognize who you are and what matters for you and your goal, without any influence from the outside world, that's when you get this security. Okay, now I see that I have a unique life because of my story, because of my upbringing, because of what I care about. The moment you recognize that, then you stop comparing with other people because you yourself is enough. There is a quotation, I may not quote it right. It says that everybody is taken, something like that. Everybody is taken, which means I have to take myself. And then there is another quotation which says that be your first rate yourself than the second rate of somebody else.
Yes, right. Yeah, very good one. It's one of Dale Carnegie's principles from How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, which is another one of his fabulous books. It took him 20 years to write How to Win Friends and Influence People and to craft it and finally publish it. And then it was 9 years later when he published How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And it also has some great things. I want to give a little suggestion to any of our viewers here. If you haven't read those two books, get them for sure. They're also on audio. They're excellent. We've just updated both books. Dale Carnegie Associates has that, by the way, and only a couple of times in the whole history of the organization have we updated those, but really great modern day updates. The other thing you can do is go on your smartphone and download this app. It's called the Dale Carnegie Golden Book. And what it does is it gives you access to all 60 principles, 30 principles from How to Win Friends and Influence People, the first 9 on how to build rapport and connect with people, the next 12 on how to begin to influence people, and then the last 9 in that section are how to give constructive feedback or be a leader. And then you get into the principles from how to stop worrying and start living. And those are dynamite principles. And one of those is don't imitate others, right? Be yourself. Just a really, really great thing for sure. So I recommend those things to anybody watching or listening.
Thank you for sharing these resources. I encourage everyone to check. I read, I believe, many of his books, some of them twice. I make sure that I read twice to capture some of the things, and I encourage everybody. The more we read, the more we stand on the shoulders of others, the more we could increase our confidence. The next discussion I want to spend a little bit of time on is about how we demonstrate conflict. Think about it. If I'm walking on the red carpet, if I am communicating, interacting with the people who love me, the people I know, the people I agree with, my confidence may not be challenged. But think about when I am in conflict, when I am in tense situations, when there is a high stake argument, conflict, negotiation. That's when our confidence is truly challenged. That's when actually we prove ourselves how much we have grown in terms of confidence. And Jeff, if you have any story or if you have any examples that you want to share with us, how can we handle conflicts with calm personality without damaging the relationships and burning bridges?
So, this is such an important thing. And honestly, AZ, we could spend lots more time talking about just this topic. And there's a lot of content in the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, that goes directly at conflict. But some of the key things from my perspective that I've learned, over the years and teaching that for almost 40 years now, is it goes back to that self-control and that self-discipline. So, the self-control is to not let our emotions get the best of us. When we have conflict with somebody else, we tend to be frustrated. They don't understand. They're not listening. They don't get it. And we want to force our opinion on them. So you have to have the true self-confidence to say, let them speak. Let me hear them out. Because one thing that's true is we don't learn anything when we're talking. We only learn when we're listening. And so when we're listening or, hearing from them, we can learn things. And we have to be open-minded enough to say, hey, they may have a point. I might want to change my mind. And if we're not, then we're not going to go into conflict effectively. Now, if we go through that and we say, okay, I've heard what they've said, I understand their point of view, I disagree and I have a different point of view, then how we communicate that and do it respectfully is really key, even if they're not being respectful to us. Because if we go down to that same level of name calling and personal insults to try and persuade or get our way across, we're no better than that person or that kind of behavior that we know is bad. So again, it's a balance between bullying and being a victim, right? We certainly don't want to be a bully, and we don't want to be a victim. We have to be assertive enough to stand up and say, here's what I believe and this is why. We have a module in our training, AZ, called Disagree Agreeably. And the first step is to listen to the other person and be open-minded. And then to ask ourselves, what do I think? Why do I think that? And do I have an example or a specific evidence? I love how you talk about stories and how powerful they are. And there's a lot of reasons behind that we could talk about for a long time. But that idea of, do I have any evidence to share? And then when I do open my mouth, I want to make sure they know I've heard them by either repeating what they've said or cushioning their point of view, saying, I hear where you're coming from, and then sharing our evidence, and then finally getting to our conclusion, hey, this is what I believe, this is what I feel along those lines. So we've got to resist the temptation to get emotional and make it an argument. That's another one of Dale Carnegie's principles. Is the only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. So don't get dragged into it or don't start it, right? Get the emotion out and come at it from a point of view that I'm going to have some evidence to persuade. Does that make sense, AZ? I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, awesome. I appreciate you for sharing that framework, and I 100% agree with you. The key thing is we should not be bullies, and at the same time, and also we should not be pushovers,
Right.
because when you have confidence, you keep the balance. When you see successful and confident people, they don't aggressively push people around. They don't belittle people. They don't beat down people. Some people think confidence is beating down others, showing that you're a better person. But when you think about it, true confidence is the willingness to hear people when they disagree with you, the ability to ask questions when somebody's questioning who you are or your beliefs or what you believe, the ability to be calm and ask questions and understand from where they are coming from. My question to you is, do you remember any situation where you found yourself in that kind of tight space where your emotions are provoked and you needed to calm down yourself? Do you remember any tactic? In my case, for example, when I am, let's say I'm facilitating and somebody's not really behaving well, maybe they didn't like the topic, maybe their boss sent them to that session.
Sure.
And you see their behaviors is not really professional, and you are here trying to meet the needs of your audience, and somebody is, I can give you a lot of examples, some of them are really unprofessional. The challenge I had in the past was I may be calm for a while and then I become passive aggressive. I may overreact. It could be justifiable from my own eyes, but if you think about it, I'm a trainer. I should set example. I should set how you handle that kind of situations and disappointments. But over the years, I learned how to do it. One of the things I do is to show empathy. This person, what makes me to behave like them? Something happened to them with their family, or a health issue, or somebody triggered them, or something is going on in their life or out there. The moment I have that empathy, I'm not judging them. I'm not trying to push back or become aggressive. I immediately show empathy. I come maybe close to them, make eye contact with them, wait for the break. And I may ask them, I have seen you do this. Is there anything going on? Do you want to share with me anything that's happening? Because they're human beings. I want to show empathy and then wait for the break. In your case, when you find yourself in that kind of a space where you are triggered emotionally and you're feeling like you have to respond, what do you do? And what keeps you to be calm, ask questions, and give a space to other people?
Yeah, that's really so important, that when we have that kind of emotional conflict, and having been being a father who's been divorced and remarried, of course divorce is incredibly challenging. And one time, one of our kids with my first wife was having some health and emotional issues, and my ex and I were really having some conflict about it, and at one point she really wanted to just fight it out, and for whatever reason I was able to stay calm and avoid it. I walked away a couple of times, came back, she still was upset and really wanted to engage. I said, no, let's just talk about it later. And it ended up a few hours later she had calmed down. We had one of the most meaningful conversations we'd had in a long time, and and we ended up making a big change where our child came to live with me instead of with her at the time, because they were having conflict. And I didn't suggest it, she did. And so that was using, again, a couple of the Dale Carnegie principles: let the other person feel the idea as his or hers. If you can do that, then you can find ways to find resolution. But it's that, look, get away. If you're getting overly emotional, get out of the situation. Literally walk away or hang up the phone or whatever it is, to not engage in that really destructive conflict, because nobody wins that, right? And then come back at it from a more calm, emotional, empathetic point of view, like you mentioned, and ideally you'll reach a compromise or come to a conclusion that will work.
I love it. I love it. I do the same thing, like you say, walk away. One of the ways I walk away, if I'm over the phone and if something is triggered and my voice is changing, I don't want to say something I'm going to regret. I could say, I'll call you back. It's better to postpone that, because the moment I take time, I may realize that maybe I'm overreacting, or maybe I'm chatting with someone, maybe they did something, say something, and I'm now aggravated, and I'll say, just give me a second, I'll be back. And I go to the restroom, breathe in, breathe out. I try to put myself in their space, because I don't want to burn bridge. I try everything possible to make sure that I don't say something that I regret. Or if I'm writing an email angry, I don't want to send that. I want to keep it in the draft. I don't want to text it. I would say, let me wait an hour. These are really important, empowering, very easy to do, because yes, we have confidence. Yes, we're calm. But once in a while, there are things that are going to throw us off, and we don't want to damage relationships.
It goes back to that self-control, to not say the thing you shouldn't, or not send the email you shouldn't when you feel like sending it anyway. It's overcoming that emotion.
Yes, let's talk about, this is our last topic. We have like less than 10 minutes. I want to talk about one of the legendary methods of Dale Carnegie, which is about having confidence when you present in front of an audience or in front of the camera, and also when you are leading meetings, or when you are pitching in front of investors. When you are out there, you could be a social worker, or you could be a community organizer, you could be a politician. You're going out there presenting. And one of the challenges people have, there is a data, I'm sure you know it, people are afraid of other things like spiders, death, and small spaces, snake, and so on, than standing in front of people and speaking. It was like that for me. I overcame that. But when you realize that, even if it is scary, even if it's nerve-wracking, at least you know how to present in front of a camera, especially these days in a hybrid environment. If you don't know how to speak in front of other people, you may not get that job, that raise. You may not be able to close people. You may not be able to inspire people to join you, write the check, and join your cause and work with you without public speaking. And one of the most powerful stories that I read, which is related with Dale Carnegie, is the story of Warren Buffett. Warren, he has preference for introversion. He prefers to be isolated. You want to think. He doesn't want to come out and mingle with people and speak, but he realized that he couldn't be able to succeed unless he knows how to speak. And in his stories, he brings up this story of him making a decision to attend presentation skills, public speaking program of Dale Carnegie. He called that program 50 to 60 years investment. There are some investments that you make. This is the Oracle of Omaha. This is the top guy, the top dog when it comes to investment. He didn't say, oh, this is stock, or this business was my highest investment. He said, one of the investments that I've had 50 to 60 years impact, positively or negatively, is presentation skills. I want to know how you train people to speak successfully.
So the interesting thing about Warren Buffett is that he's so proud of his Dale Carnegie certificate. It's still on his wall in his office in Omaha. And the whole story of Dale Carnegie really underlies a lot of it. When Dale Carnegie started teaching his classes in 1912 in New York City, it was public speaking was the only thing he was teaching, because he didn't know anything else and he needed a job. And he knew how to do public speaking. What he found was, when he helped people succeed at public speaking, it grew their self-confidence, and that self-confidence spilled over into every other aspect of their life, whether that was being a good salesperson, a good business person, a leader, a parent, a spouse. That confidence helped in every aspect, and you could get it by conquering the nervousness and anxiety or fear of public speaking. You know, you talked about that terrifying, gripping fear. We have a specific 2-day course called How to Get Rid of the Fear and Horror of Public Speaking. And it's a magical program for those people that truly suffer from glossophobia. That's the true phobia of just standing up and speaking in front of a group of people. But we have other programs, our high impact presentations, our advanced presentations. Helps anybody, whether you're already world class and you want to be even better. It's a fantastic program. But the great thing about it is that it goes back to some of the same principles we've talked about. One is preparation, right? So earning the right to stand up and make a presentation is key through knowledge and experience, but not over preparing, because if you think, again, if you shoot for perfectionism, you're only going to be disappointed. So it's get to that point where you feel, I'm ready. I may not even be 100% prepared, but I'm ready. So that's that confidence comes with you that I'm going to do good and I'm going to do okay no matter what. Another thing is to visualize success. Is when you got to make a presentation, picture in your head that it's gone fabulously well, that it's, they're just loving it. They're very great. You feel great. The audience feels great. And so when you visualize that, it helps you move towards that for sure. And then watch that self-talk. If you hear yourself saying, oh God, I hate this. I wish I didn't have to do it. This is terrible. I'm a horrible speaker. You got to stop that negative self-talk. And you've got to, maybe in the times of calm, write yourself a pep talk. I'm going to do great at this because I've earned the right to talk about it. I've prepared it. I'm the subject matter expert. This audience wants the information I have for them. Give yourself a list of realistic positives that are going to help you be successful. And then read that if you have to keep the positive self-talk and visualizing success as opposed to failure. And then really practice and rehearse. Know how you're going to open, know how you're going to close, know what the key points you want to make in between are, and have some stories to tell or other great evidence that will make it work. Those are some key specific tips that can help people. The other thing too, AZ, is understand the behaviors that confident, successful speakers do. They have great posture. They stand up straight or sit up straight, their shoulders are back, their heads up, they're looking at the audience, they make eye contact, they use their hands, right? They don't do like this, they don't get nervous, and so even if I'm not feeling confident, if I behave that way, like we already said at the top of the show, the action, the emotion will follow. When you act confidently, you will become more confident. So model those confident gestures, behaviors, use video to watch yourself or use a trusted person to help give you that feedback. And when you model those, you're going to feel more confident.
These are really great insights and practical tips. I wish we have more time to go one by one and cover them. Whenever I coach someone, the first thing we do is working on their mindset, because there may be some reasons, some doubts, some beliefs that is stopping them from showing up, standing in front of the camera or people because of those reasons. And when we work in their mindset, what happens, they realize what's keeping them from stepping up and speaking. And also the things that you mentioned, the preparation, the visualization, toning down the voice, so many tips, and I'm sure our audience benefited from this. But I want to invite you again for us to pick some of these great ideas, dive deeper, and specifically talk about this. Before we close, do you have any last minute comments, suggestions, or recommendations to our audience? How can they learn more about you, about Dale Carnegie Tampa, or anything that you have that may benefit the audience?
Well, yeah, thank you so much. Hey, reach out on LinkedIn or any other social media. Love to connect with you. Look us up online, Dale Carnegie Tampa Bay. Or Southwest Florida. Happy to reach out if we can help you individually or your organization. We would absolutely love to. But AZ, one of the things that I'll say in closing is you mentioned that great teacher who stood in between the door and waved you in to give you copies of How to Win Friends and Influence People. Is that look back, who's believed in you? right? And there's always somebody there, or look for somebody that can help mentor, guide you, give you that positive feedback. I've been lucky enough to have many of those people in my life. But now I'm worried about, who am I doing that for? Am I doing that appropriately for my kids, for my family? Am I doing it for my coworkers? Am I doing it from the people I interact with every day? And when we think about other people and we put them first, we automatically build our own self-confidence. So be that kind of person that's mentoring and maybe changing someone else's life, because you're the teacher in the door going, come here, I've got something for you.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Jeff, for coming. And I wish you good luck for Saturday. You're going to be successful in your competition. And I want to thank everyone who joined us live, and also we're going to watch this on demand. I want to appreciate you for watching this. I encourage you again and again to reach out to Jeff. He's available on LinkedIn. You could also go to their website. They have different programs. Go out there and take your confidence and the speaking ability to the next level by working with them. If you have any feedback, any question, or anything that we should bring to this platform, please let me know, like, comment, and also share this video to the people who may benefit from it to take their confidence to the next level. Bye-bye, and see you soon.